Thank you very much. I want to bring in member of the House Armed Services and Judiciary Committees, Democratic Assistant Whip, Congresswoman Veronica Escobar of Texas, whose district includes the border city of El Paso. And Alex, if you want to keep Jacob, if he would like to ask questions as well, he's certainly welcome to. Congresswoman Escobar, it's great to have you back on the show. I think your voice has been so important on this issue. You know the issue, you lived the issue, and you come to the table with details and history as to why this is such a problematic time in our history, problems that have been put forward and created by this president. I noticed that you've also talked about the DHS secretary, which have been pretty outspoken as well. She seems created a situation, but you also have the head of Homeland Security who doesn't seem to be up to speed as well as to what this country is about. Is that fair to say?
Right. And Mika, thank you so much for having me on the show again. This is an administration led, obviously, by the president that only knows how to use government to create and to create problems instead of solving problems. And the president has installed as his secretary of the Department of Homeland Security someone also deeply uninterested in addressing or solving any of our greatest challenges, and who instead wants to be his head cheerleader for cruelty. And it is long past time that she resign. You know, I held back calling for her resignation after the deaths of 2 children in U.S. custody, because I felt that, as you know, just for the sake of due process, we should hear what the autopsies would reveal, and we should wait for an investigation. But what's happening now, I don't know if you saw the pictures, I'm sure you did, and I'm sure the rest of America did, was the Department of Homeland Security corralling families, thousands of people, half of them were children, under our port of entry, out in the open, in the elements, with nighttime temperatures dipping into the 30s, kids, moms, parents, families sleeping in the dirt, on the ground, in a way that is worse than how we treat animals in this country. And they were corralled off with chain link fencing, with concertina wire above it, as if these are people who are trying to escape. These are families who arrived at our doorstep seeking help. Now, you know, people, the Trump administration, his supporters, may be uninterested in seeing what's happening and really only interested in trying to stop this. If they were interested, if the Trump administration were truly interested in stemming the flow of Central American families, he would do what the Obama administration did. Because as you and I have talked about, this has been going on for 5 years. This is not new. This is the 4th uptick, but the most significant one for a couple of reasons. Number one, we have a president absolutely uninterested in working collaboratively with the Northern Triangle presidents. During the Obama administration, President Biden went and visited and held accountable the presidents of Central America, of the Northern Triangle. He'd go every month. So it was a combination of investment and accountability. Once this administration was sworn in, the accountability ended, and now we're seeing the investment end as well. And we wonder why there are more people rushing to our front doorstep.
So you mentioned the 2 children who died. A point of clarity here. Over the weekend, President Trump falsely said that one of the fathers of the little girl, that he accepted blame for that death, and that's not the case. So I want to make that clear right now. But secondly, you know, obviously you just spoke about some of the moral issues here, but let's speak about some of the economic issues. The president is actually going to the border on Friday in California, not in Texas. But tell us what it would be like if he follows through on this threat, if he closes this border. What is the impact for places like the towns where you represent?
You know, and For me, there's a daily impact in El Paso. We have thousands of people who go back and forth over our ports of entry. Those are arteries for commerce. Those are avenues for the economy, and we see it locally. And what I want folks in America to understand, though, is it won't just impact El Paso, won't just impact border communities. This will be devastating to the national economy. We think things were bad with tariffs, things were bad on farmers. Things are about to get a whole lot worse if the president follows through with, again, yet another this attack on a border community that is going to have a ripple effect, a really devastating ripple effect throughout the country, and it won't even address the challenges that we face, right? It won't stop people who are arriving where there is a wall that was built 10 years ago. So what we're seeing again, and it's remarkable to me how either inept or just deliberately cruel, or a combination of both, this administration is. They're stopping people from legitimately coming in at the ports of entry to legally claim asylum. They're being pushed out to areas where there already is a wall, but they're walking up and presenting themselves. So you shut down the border, it's not going to stop people from presenting themselves at any other part of the border.
So Congresswoman Escobar, you just said the policy will not have an impact on what's happening on the ground. It will have these negative impacts on places, border towns like El Paso. So honestly, without, softening it, what do you think is motivating this policy? What do you think is behind all of this?
Pure politics. I really do
Just
believe
politics?
that. Well, and cruelty. I think we have a person in the White House. I agree with Mika. I don't know that he is fit. I don't believe he is fit for office. I believe he uses government as a blunt instrument to cause tremendous harm. I believe he sees government as a vehicle for cruelty, but it's also ultimately the means to it's all a means to an end, which is re-election, and getting people as excited and fueled by hatred, really, and by fear, so that they continue to support and cheer on these policies that are deeply harmful, not just to the communities that they don't understand or they don't like, but these are policies that are harmful to all Americans. Economic policies that are harmful. Closing the border with the market that is our second largest exporter, that doesn't make any economic sense.
So we
Jacob
kept
Soboroff here. Hey, Mika.
Jacob, go ahead.
Sure. Quick question for you, Congresswoman. As you well know, the State Department's announced they're going to cut off this $500 to $600 million in foreign aid to the Northern Triangle countries. That money has already been appropriated by Congress. Do you believe that the administration has the legal authority to stop the sending of those payments, that foreign aid, to Central America?
I don't, but we've seen that without support from the Senate, without colleagues who see themselves as a co-equal branch of government, it makes our job as appropriators, as the governing body that oversees and has control over the purse strings, it makes our job much more difficult when you have accomplices and enablers who aren't willing to call the president on what he's doing. We do have to look at a way to ensure that that aid gets there, but it's not just aid, Jacob. As I mentioned, Congress can do a lot, but we need leadership from the Oval Office to collaborate with the leaders of this hemisphere. We've seen around the world a global refugee crisis that had not hit the United States for a long time. It's arrived at our doorstep, and there are ways to deal with it diplomatically. There's ways to deal with it with aid. Without the diplomacy, without the leadership, really, this is our new normal for the next 2 years at least.
All right, Congresswoman Veronica Escobar, thank you. I really think that you've become one of the definitive voices on this issue. Please come back and
I will.